It's now time to storm Briganti's castle. When you first arrive, you're given the option to storm the north or south wall. Here we'll be picking the southern wall. This is a much smaller map. The terrain is not ideal for this kind of challenge, as it's a huge wall. Our archers once again will have to rely on using their finishers. At first it might seem like the worst of the two options, but on the other map the boss doesn't like to move forward. I do believe that map is possible. You may need to keep some of the boss's underlings alive so that he's not afraid. I did actually attempt that map, and I ended up killing most of his army. Before he could even get in range of my units, he then ran back to the top of the castle, at which point I could no longer reach him. For starters, we just push our archers forward so they have a bit more in the way of reach. The boss of this map doesn't like moving up too much, so by pushing our units forward a bit, we'll have a bit more in the way of reach, so we can actually target him. Because there's a huge wall in front of us, most of our units just end up waiting in place. While our archers are waiting for the enemy boss to move forward, the rest of our units are really just on healing duty, just trying to keep everyone alive. We were able to charm the enemy's witch. That'll keep her off our back for now. The enemy's cleric does try to get rid of the charm, but it doesn't actually end up working. Instead, it just removes her legend. We hit her with legend before, and the cleric's only able to remove the legend. Charm can be pretty effective, but when there are clerics around, they can instantly dispel it. So one good strategy is to hit units with other status effects first, then inflict them with charm. so that when clerics try to cleanse them, the charm's not removed, and a less important debuff is taken away instead. We get some really bad luck here, and both Canopus and our generic Vartan get knocked back. This is going to put us out of range of using our finishers on the boss. We get some pretty unfortunate timing with turn order here as well. Canopus is in range to attack the enemy boss, but he was just inflicted with fear. So his finisher doesn't deal a whole lot of damage. When I first went into this fight, I was hoping that I could just snipe the boss, but he ends up hanging back a lot in this fight. This gives us plenty of time to kill the rest of the enemy units. We've been able to withstand the worst that the enemy had for us. Canopus is no longer fearful. He's able to do a huge chunk of damage to the enemy's boss. If I was going to go back to the drawing board and do this fight again, I would definitely focus on pushing more units up. The only reason this fight took so long was because Canopus was the only one dealing damage. If we had one or two more units using finishes on the boss, this fight would have ended long ago. The boss finally moves in a way that brings him forward to us. Some of our other units can now attack him. Aracel has enough MP to get a finisher off. And with that, she's taken the enemy boss out. We've arrived inside the castle. Once again, we'll be fighting Zabos. Last time we fought Zabos, we were able to block off his army. The centre of the map was only 3 tiles wide, and by using rampart shadows we were able to block them from attacking our back line. In this map, we don't have a bridge separating us from the enemy. There's 2 impassable tiles here, with 3 open spaces in between. So this is actually quite similar to the previous map we fought Zabos in. And for that reason, I decided to use the Rampart Shadow trick once again. Zabos' forces aren't quite as scary on this map. Instead of dragoons, we have golems. Zabos himself, though, is much more dangerous on this battle. On the previous battle with Zabos, he was dealing some ridiculous damage. That's only because he was able to pick up some physical attack up cards. Every time you play a map, you're subject to a bit of randomness in what cards spawn and where they spawn. Because we can't move our units around, we are quite limited on what cards we can pick up. We just have to pray that enemy bosses don't pick up too many cards, making them even more dangerous. In this fight, Zabos actually starts with multiple cards. He has physical attack up and MP restoration cards. This will let him spam finishers all the time, and they'll be even stronger than usual. Because a significant number of his units in this fight are monsters, we're actually able to do a much better job of charming this time. Monster units have a much lower mind stat than human units. This means that they're quite susceptible to status effect magic. If Bane's able to get Spell Strike, his chances of landing a charm are probably going to be about 100%. Just like in the previous Zabos battle, the units that we're charming are doing a great job in harassing their allies. Before Zabos gets in range, some of our units are going to be using Aerion Plumes. The strengthened buff you get from Aerial Plumes only lasts for a few turns. On some fights, it's a good decision to use them straight away, as your units will be getting straight into action. But on this fight, Zabos takes a bit of a detour, and for the first 2 or 3 turns he's not really going to be in range of our units. So instead of wasting a lot of time that the buff is active, we opted to use our Aerial Plumes during the middle of the fight instead. For this fight, I also brought back the zombie octopus we recruited in Farampa Wildwoods. I never really end up using this guy again, so it was probably a waste of time going and recruiting him. When I first went into this run, I wasn't too sure on what I would need to beat it. The dragons were very helpful in taking damage for the other units that I had. So I think it's definitely a good call on recruiting dragons in this run. If I'd known beforehand what units I would need to beat this run, I probably wouldn't have recruited the octopus, but that's hindsight for you. Before we do any serious attempts in taking out Zabos, we'll definitely need to get rid of his clerics. We've already hit Zabos with a breach, and for this fight, because Zabos has 2 Fizz Up cards, I also use a Brand of the Sacrifice. This will inflict him with Weakened as well. Even with the Weakened, he's still able to do a lot of damage to our dragon. Just in case the breached wears off, we do hit him with another breach. We get quite lucky here. Because Zabos is next to one of our units already, he decides to attack it and retreat, but he retreats towards our forces instead of going to his own army. He's now out of range of being supported by his clerics. Seeing this critical error, I decide to capitalise on it, and we go all in on Zabos now. We were going to try and take out the clerics earlier, but at this point we have a very good shot of just killing Zabos right here and now. We've also hit Zabos with a silence, so he's not going to be healing himself either. Aerosol lets off one last finisher, and with that, Zabos is defeated. And with his death, the Galgastani army is no more. Upon capturing Briganti's castle, Denham learns that Kuritanai has been taken by the Wallister. We now have to go back and capture the keep for ourselves. While en route, we encounter a scene where a blind swordsman is being harassed by ninjas. It turns out that he's also being chased by the Wallister. This mysterious swordsman, as the enemy's boss puts it, is Hubirim. He's originally from Lodis, but he wants to join our army as he has a score to settle with the Dark Knights. This is another one of those maps where we'll need to push our units forward if we have any chance of saving this NPC. Just like in our attempt to save Bayan, we'll be using a wizard at the front of our army. This time it's Bayan himself. I had originally planned on pushing him forward and then putting Hubirim to sleep so that he wouldn't be targeted. Because Bayan's a mage, he also has much lower defenses than Hubirim. So I was hoping that enemies would prefer taking attacks on him instead. This doesn't quite end up working as Bayan misses his sleep on Hubirim. Here we're just forming a conga line and pushing all of our units forward. Fortunately, Hubirim isn't stupid like some other guests in this game, and he actually retreats towards your army. We do still need a unit to heal up Hoberim, as he's inevitably going to take some damage. We've got Denim as a knight, and Falkut's not too far off either. Providing Hoberim doesn't run forward, we should be able to keep him alive. The strategy we're using is a bit reckless, so some of our units do get taken out. We do have Blessing Stones to revive them. Preferably, I just want to kill the boss as soon as possible. He is a magic unit, so his defences aren't going to be too great compared to some of the previous bosses we've dealt with recently. So it shouldn't be too hard to kill him. A lot of our backline units still aren't really in range to do anything towards the boss. We do kind of need to get rid of these berserkers as they're dealing a lot of damage to Hoberim. Hoberim's no slouch though, and he's able to do plenty of damage back to them as well. We did bring back Sarah for this fight. We've not been using her for quite some time, so she's a bit underleveled. I was in need of one more unit to use a shield to push our units forward. Sarah does go down again, but we were able to reset her death counter. On the bright side, the enemy's boss is now in range. Hoberin pulls a little nasty prank on this berserker as well, and using preempt he's able to bait him into attacking him, only to kill him before he can attack. Now, the enemy boss is doing an amazing job of blocking all of our dragon's boulders. Earlier on, we were able to give a boon of swiftness to Falca and Denim. This lets them get their turn just before this enemy wizard. They were able to heal Hoberim up to a decent amount of HP. After the wizard hits him with a spell, he's back down to a scarily low amount of HP. Voltaire is able to land a breach on him. And that pretty much seals his fate. Now, we do need to wrap things up as soon as possible, as poor Bane is nearly about to die. The enemy's boss, despite being weakened, decides to stick around and attack our backline, and for this he pays dearly. Hobrim sees his weakness and is able to finish him. At the end of the fight, Hobrim offers to join our forces. As we've been playing through this game, we've been accruing quite a few experience charms, so at this point I decided to use some of them. We're back at Karitanai Keep. Just like in the previous battle at this map, we'll be using a different formation from normal. The frontliners we have will be on the right of our squad. This is due to the way that the enemies move on this map. We're only interested in killing the enemy's boss, and he'll go on the right side of the path and meet up with our frontliners, if all goes well. The rest of his units aren't too much of a concern. We'll still fight them, of course, but really we're just holding off until the enemy's boss comes to us. There's a lot of monsters on this map, so we'll be using Charm to great effect. the enemy's leader, first finally moving into range. The boss on this map is a Terranite, so we do have to be a bit cautious about him hitting us with fear. He is wearing strong armor, as most physical bosses do, so he'll be a bit harder to kill than the mage we fought in the previous battle, but he's still nowhere near as tanky as bosses like Hector and Zabos. The enemy has so many beast units, so there's a lot of HP to chew through with them all. We're not able to get rid of all of these dragons before the boss arrives, so instead I decide to hit all these monsters with sleep and charm just to keep them off of our backs. Pretty much as soon as the boss gets in range of our melee units, we're able to take him out, no problem. Before we enter our next battle, I do need to do a bit of preparation. For the only time in this run, I actually change a unit's element. We'll be changing Denim from fire to lightning. This is because the boss of this chapter is Sir Leonar. You can do this fight with your whole army against his whole army, but he also gives you the option of doing a 1v1 duel. Leonard does start the fight with 2 physical attack up cards and 2 MP restoration cards. So he's going to hit like a truck and he's going to be spamming finishers every turn. On our first turn we use an Aerion Plume, and on our second turn a Basin of Time. These 2 items will give us a good chance of dealing similar damage and resisting damage. This will put us on a fairly level playing field with Leonard. We'll now be able to tank damage and deal damage somewhat as good as he can do. Not quite, but it's good enough. We've also put Denim on a specific tile that just happens to be 2 tiles away from the tile that Leonard will end on his third turn. This means that Leonard can't attack us, but we're also in range to use a Brand of the Sacrifice on him. With him being weakened and us having Fortify up, we should be able to hold out against his damage. Leonard does have access to 2 finishers. If Leonard sees that he can do enough damage to you, he'll use Rending Gale. Rending Gale hits twice, and if his AI is deciding to use that instead of Vile Wound, it's probably going to be GG if you try this strategy, as he'll just do too much damage to you. If he can't do as much damage, he'll opt to use Vile Wound instead. This deals a bit more damage on the initial hit, but won't do as much overall as a Rending Gale would do. However, the Vile Wound will inflict poison on Denim. Being a knight and having Fortify up will significantly reduce the damage we take, but we can't ignore the poison damage. So here we use a Fruit of the Seraph. This fills our HP up and also gives us enough MP to use finishers. We get lucky here and we activate Phalanx. With all of the MP we were just given, we're able to hit Leonard with 2 finishers back to back, and we're able to finish the fight without too much of a struggle. There are other ways of beating this fight, and it really depends on the class you're using. For the no move challenge, I'm pretty sure Knight is the only real safe option. You could try doing it with Berserker, inflicting Breach on him. If Denim's able to activate Sanguine Assault and Berserk, you could couple that with a Strengthen and a Breach on Leonard, and you might be able to 2-shot him, but going with the Knight strategy seems much safer. After we've taken out Leonard, we do 1 small training battle just to prepare for the next battle. We're heading to Rhyme, but we need to attack the city from an unexpected location. We get the brilliant idea to travel over an active volcano. Our enemy here is Gamp. Once again he's tracked us down. He's brought a few familiar friends with him. Berda and Obda are here. And as well as them, Gamp's got some new pals, Banga and Zanga, the cockatrice. This is actually one of the scarier fights that we have to go through in Chapter 3. In this challenge run in particular, I would argue that this is more difficult than the Zabos fight. All of Gamp's pets can fly, so they don't really care about the rough terrain on this map. Your army will quickly become harassed by these flying birds. The griffins will be stunning your units, and the cockatrice will be petrifying your army as well. Not only do we have to contend with these dangerous birds, but Gamp also has a surprise up his sleeve in this fight. If you kill off one of his pets, he actually heals up and debuffs your entire army. I'm not sure how he does this because no other enemy in the game has this ability. Maybe Gamp is just the most dangerous person on Valeria and we're just not aware of it. Luckily we've brought Aerion Plumes, You can only be affected by weakened or strengthened. So by saving our Aerion Plumes, we can use them to override the weakness. This is probably the only battle in the game where I would actually recommend equipping the Resist Petrify skill. The difficult part about the cockatrice is that you want to kill them quickly, but in doing so you're going to be charging their MP, which will give them their breath attacks. With our units clumped up like this, a level 2 breath attack would be able to petrify 5 units at once if we get unlucky. We were able to put one of the birds to sleep for a few turns. Something that you need to consider is that monster units are a fair bit faster than human units. It's true that they can't equip items, so they are usually considered to be worse than humans. The fact that they don't equip items means that they are going to be faster. If you're relying on keeping them out of the fight by having them sleep for a few turns, you've got to be aware that the turns that they will sleep will go by much faster, and they'll be harassing you in no time. As the saying goes, the early bird catches the worm. couple of our units have been petrified and we're in a pretty bad shape here. As soon as Gamp gets in range, we need to kill him as soon as possible. The combination of Gamp's pets and the new units that have just arrived is a bit too much for our units to handle at this point. We're really just hoping that Canopus and Aracel can kill Gamp as soon as possible. One of the winged units in Gamp's army is a cleric, so on this fight it's definitely a good idea to silence him as well. This version of the Gamp fight is slightly easier than the one on the Law route, I'd say. On the Law route, you still need to fight Gamp, but you face him at Tynemouth Hill instead. In that version of the fight, Gamp has a similar composition of units. You've still got Burda, Obda, Banga and Zanga, and then a bunch of winged units. Your starting position compared to Gamp's is a bit closer. Gamp's other units are also going to close the gap much sooner as well, because there's no obstacles for them in Tynemouth Hill, whereas here they have to go around lava. In the Tynemouth Hill version of this fight, Gamp's birds will usually be on your army by the second turn, and then the rest of his army will shortly follow after them. At least in this version of the fight, after the birds arrive, we still have a grace period of around 1 or 2 turns before his other units arrive. we start on advantageous terrain as well. In the law version of this fight, you also don't have such a big height advantage, so archers are not going to be as effective as they are in this version of the fight.
デニム、私たちはたった2人の兄弟なのよ。
それは違う。君は天涯孤独の身だ。
誰？ランスロット・タルタルス！あなたがどうしてここに？じゃあこの私は誰なの？一体誰だっていうの？
君の本当の名はベルサリア。ベルサリア・オベです。
We finally arrive in Rhyme.
ライムに侵入したのはいいけど、公爵は一体どこにいるんだろ
う。急げってんだよ。
まずい、気づかれたのか。なぜバイスがバクラム兵と一緒にいるんだ。
Duke Romway has met up with the Dark Knight Lancelot. Things aren't going to plan. Vice appears, but then he kills the Duke. Turns out that Vice has been scheming with the leader of the Bakram. Vice betrays the Duke, and the Bakram have betrayed the Dark Knights.
バクラムが裏切ったらしいな。いや、先にバクラムを欺いたのは暗黒騎士団か。
Oz and Ozma make use of the chaos and they flee from battle.
手をけ。奴らの方が先だ。
戦いに慣れていない
Because we came from an unexpected direction, the Bakram are caught off guard. This is another of those maps I would call a filler map, honestly. We're just fighting a bunch of generic units. The only thing I can say for this map is that the enemy has quite a lot of healing. They have knights, a rune fencer, and a cleric. We definitely want to kill the cleric, and for the knights we silence one of them, put one to sleep, and charm the other one. We're doing a fairly good job of removing the enemy's ability to heal. We've nearly killed the enemy's cleric. We've managed to put status effects on the enemy knights to prevent them from healing, and the rune fencer is silenced as well. At this point we're just waiting for the Terror Knight to come forward a bit so we can start shooting him. At this point, Aracel is our only archer. The other units using bows are Vartans, and Sistina is a Valkyrie. Having Aracel as an archer was pretty good in this run. Her activating Eagle Eye meant that we could easily silence many units. Archers get access to great bows, but most of the classes that can use bows can only use short bows. For a significant period of the game, our other units have been using the Boulder Bow +1 that inflicts silence on hit. It's been pretty useful so far, and in this fight we've been able to silence a lot of units. Even if our bow users can't hit a magic unit, it can still be worth silencing them, as enemy clerics will still try to cleanse the debuff, wasting their turn and their MP. Sistina, Aracel and our Vartans are now just going to be spamming their finishers on the boss. Here we end up hitting Denim with this Fire Breath attack. But I needed to do this to kill off the enemy's Rune Fencer. In doing this, the Terror Knight boss was able to move up closer to us. By killing the Rune Fencer just before he got his turn, he could then move into range for Voltaire to use his finisher. Canopus uses one last finisher, and kills the boss for us.
呪いの風情にやられることになろうとは。
この混乱に乗じて町から脱出する前に公爵と暗黒騎士ランスロットを探さないと。
カノープス、それにデニム君。
At the end of the fight, we return to Almarica Castle, and we're reunited with Gildas and Merdia.
ご無事で何よりです。
ゴーレンの具合は
まだ意識は戻っていません。しかし命に別状はないそうです。
そうか。そりゃよかった。ランスロットはまだ戻ってきてないのか。
Warren is alive as well, but he's unconscious.
あの晩に別れたきりさ。俺たちは
However, Lancelot is nowhere to be seen.
お前たちのおかげでやっと出れたってわけだ。ところでこれからどうするんだ。やはりフィダック城を攻めるのか。
そのつもりです。ブランタと暗黒騎士団の仲はうまくいっていません。指揮系統の乱れている今ならフィダック城を落とすことができるかもしれない。
そうかい。それじゃ俺たちも参加させてもらうぜ。奴らにライムでの借りを返さなくちゃいかんしな。いいんだろ、デニム。よかった。さあ、行きましょう。
A messenger appears and lets us know that the Dark Knights have made a move for Bowed Fortress.
暗黒騎士団の一個小隊が密かにフィダックより移動。
This is the hideout where the Liberation Front was based.
ボード砦に。
あの砦はバレリア解放戦線のアジトがあるはず。
奴ら何か企んでいるに違えねえ。
In the next part, we'll try to save the Liberation Front, and we'll take the fight to the Dark Knights. See you then.